Hello and good morning and good evening if you're joining us from the UK or any other part. And welcome. We are super excited to be here. Thanks for allowing us to do this on a different day. I know that you guys are, yeah, we're used to a different day, but yeah, it's a new year. Happy New Year to everybody. And we're really excited to start the new year with this, what we think amazing, inspiring, evocative, and fun assignment. And we are grateful that you decided to join us. Thanks for picking up some of the images already from the shared folder. If you're watching this from the future, welcome. We hope you create something amazing and beautiful and share it with everyone else. And let me just hold on one second. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So hold on. I just wanted to, yeah. And so I'm just gonna go right ahead and start sketching. Before that, I just wanted to say that we tried to do much more research on this because conceptually we wanted to make sure that this felt like a good beginning of the year. And I feel like there are so many things that we discovered that make it an excellent cathartic assignment to not only begin the year, but also to mark it and document it, and then looking back and then associating it with or contextualizing it with our contemporary um, events. So I have a toaster. I actually have a toaster that, oh, let me see if I can. I have a toaster and I'm going to do it from live. So this is my toaster and I got it like maybe a couple of years ago. And so we highly encourage you guys to work from live if you can. We take every opportunity we can to work from live because it just exercises different kinds of muscles, observational muscles. If you don't have a toaster or you prefer to use images, we noticed that some of you already uploaded additional images and we're very excited. We also want to share things later about one specific story that we forgot to mention in the presentation yesterday. But it was kind of boring to browse through images of toasters that looked off of a catalog. It just, after all the research and all the paintings and sculptures and Calder and the guy who made the melted toaster, everything looks so exciting and beautiful that those images felt so too clean. So we went on Craigslist and we typed used toasters and we got some of images that we feel are more exciting, and also on eBay. So they may not be super clean and perfect, but they're real. And we're excited that some of you already selected that. And let me just stop right now and say hello, Jen. Thanks for being there.
Hi, happy Saturday. It felt weird. I was like, I do my normal Friday things. This is dumb, but I like check the stock market and whatever. And I it like started today, and I was like about to do all those Friday things, and I was like, wait a second, it's the weekend. So happy weekend.
Thanks so much. I can't wait to spend time with you too and
Too.
today. And also, it's true, this morning it just felt different. And I don't know how to think about this. Like anything new, it just feels a little bit strange. But at the same time, the minute that we start, I just feel that it's a beautiful day. It's a perfect day for painting. So I know that this is different from Friday, but at the same time, I just feel excited about this. So anyhow, so I'm gonna go ahead and start explaining the most challenging part of the assignment, which is the composition. So if you work off of a photograph, you may have a little bit more of facilitating way of translating the composition onto your format. I'm going to talk about format, and format consists of on three things: the size of the painting surface you want to work on, the shape of it, if it's square, if it's rectangular, and if it has a different other kind of like strange shape. And also the orientation, if it's not square, if it's oriented vertical or horizontally. So I like to take my time deciding sizes and orientations, and I feel like there's a possibility of artistically already make decisions about it. So if you made the choice and the decision already, just make sure that when you translate the image of the photograph onto your format, you may have to do adjustments. And that happens almost all the time. So make sure you understand that the closer you add things to the edge of your format, the more those elements will get pulled against the edge. And it may create some interruptions in the flow of anyone looking at the painting and going around the subject. So from the perception point of view, that's something that becomes a challenge, even though you may see images that have things cropped or exactly touching the edge. One of the things that I'm going to talk a lot is the painting by Villa. I forgot the last name, the painting of the radiator or the heater. And I love that painting so much for many reasons. One of them is the composition, the fact that the radiator was occupying a much smaller space than we would intentionally or we would anticipate. So I think that is already an interesting choice. So it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't mean like we have to do it, but be intentional with your composition. So I think what I'm going to do in order to prevent myself from losing control of the arrangement is to set up these lines, this kind of like frame inside of a frame. I want to do that because it's a way to build sort of like a framework or a scaffolding. I don't know if it's very visible, but yeah, I just want to make sure that I leave this space. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want this much space between what's going to happen right here and the edge. I want the object to breathe. I want to provide visual path for anyone seeing the object. I want to make sure that the object doesn't get pulled against the edges. I want to really feature and showcase the actual object without bringing any off-frame or intention. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. And it seems silly, but it's a way of understanding that anything that's going to happen, it's going to happen within a distance from the actual edge. Now that I have this, I'm going to start with my potato shapes. So the potato shape is a basic silhouette. It's a basic silhouette. Ooh, I'm already making changes. Okay, so that allows me to find out how to arrange the main shape onto my format. So this already is going well. It's already going well in the sense that I already have enough space, and it took me less than 60 seconds to do the frame and the main silhouette. So spend time thinking about this and what kind of composition and arrangement you want within your frame, your format. I call it format. So, because it's going to determine a lot. So let me just go back to the painting really quickly. Actually, you guys, I'm just going to switch the screen because I'm obsessed with this painting. And it's the only, no, it's not the only one, but I'm obsessed with this for many reasons. And I want to share just so we get a visual example of what I meant. And this is the painting of Villa Salmons. And there's a pronunciation on Wikipedia, so I know that Latvian American. So interesting format, it's a square. So that's already something. And that's not 1964, so very unusual. It's very Instagram-like. And then plenty of space around the object. I love that non-distinction between flat surface and whatever it's in the back. So no visual planes, no perspective, and your eyes are directed to look at the actual object and what it's doing. So there's something static about this image, and there's something dynamic in the fact that it's on and it's creating heat. So that's going to be different from what we're doing, obviously, because I decided not to put any toast. And by the way, this will be an opportunity, and hopefully if you watch the video, the inspiration behind it, you may have gotten some ideas about what you want to orchestrate in your arrangement, because we left the gates open for any possibility, from incorporating a self-portrait to bringing toast into the picture that may have something on them. So in my case, I wanted to have the object, and going back to the hidden messages on paintings. On my object, the toaster is not plugged. I pulled the plug on the toaster, but on this heater or appliance, you can see that the cable, it's not showing the end. So we assume that it's plugged somewhere. Very, very interesting and sophisticated. So I just can't wait to see what you guys again orchestrate. But so now that I have the potato shape, which allows me to arrange more or less what I want, I am go back to it, and I know that I have to raise a little bit the toaster, because the wire here, it goes down a little bit. So let me just wipe it off again. And I'm gonna do the toaster a little bit smaller, because I'm gonna stay true to my strategy. And my strategy from the very beginning was to not go beyond this. And I didn't consider the wire for the composition. So I'm just gonna go back, and I'm not gonna do any structural lines. I'm gonna go back, and I'm just gonna do the plug right here. All right, so I just wanted to make sure that I showed how potato shapes are not fixed. The function of a potato shape, what I call a potato shape, is to allow me to make decisions and execute changes. So we usually put the first lines, and then that's it. We just we stick with them. But that's not. It shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be the case. All right. So I got. I shifted. I shrank the size of the toaster because I didn't have enough room for the cable, and I just raised it and put it towards the right. And just doing that, I don't want to just throw flowers to myself, or whatever the English expression is. But I just want to just show how much more harmonious compositionally this is from what I had before. I give more space for the cable to unfold without squeezing it or losing control of the cable or the plug going too close to the edge. And it just feels like nicely balanced, in my opinion. And the fact that it's a little bit raised and to the left, it almost feels like it's removing weight from the object and concentrating on the surface a little bit more. So it just completely changed the energy and dynamic of forces inside of the composition. Okay, so in the next 10 minutes until the first half hour, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to the potato shape, and I'm gonna try to just retrace it. But this time, since I'm okay with the placement and size of my composition, what I'll do is just refine a little bit those edges. There's a little bit of a tilt here. And I'm gonna go, yeah, I think that's okay. Right, so yeah. And I'm doing some of the structural lines. Now, on an appliance like this one, we're gonna have a lot of details, the knobs, the levels, the levers, the openings, the metallic meshes inside, brands, buttons, little tiny descriptions printed on the surface. If it's metallic, we're gonna have reflections. I'm not thinking about any of those things. So my intention is not to capture those details yet. I'm working on this from a very general point of view, or yeah, very general point of view. So I'm just going to, oops, I don't know how to squeeze myself through this. Right. All right, so 1 second. I need to move the whole thing. I should have previewed that. All right, so let me just try to put it back. Okay. All right, yeah, so I think that's good. Okay, so perfect. Ooh, it's a little bit more tilted, so I'm just gonna do it like this. Okay, so Sarah Jennings, you just joined, and we talked about crucial compositional premises. And let's see what happens. Very, very important, Sarah, very important. So this will be an experiment. All right, so I think that's okay.
Julio, can you adjust your camera a little bit so the image is more centered?
Thanks.
Sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And all right, so, yeah. All right, so I just did that, the openings, and I'm just gonna, I have still a few details. So what I'm gonna do with those few details, I think I'm just gonna place some of the knobs. Yeah. Actually, this is much more fun than I anticipated. Who would have thought? I don't think, yeah. Okay, I think that's good. And I'm gonna start like shading also. So after I do some structural lines, which means that I refine the potato shape, and by potato shape, I just mean like a very broad silhouette. And the reason why I like to work with silhouettes is because they allow me to make adjustments before I commit to any details. I try not to go too fast, and I refrain from speeding right now, and I try to be more thoughtful in what I want at each step. So if I do the silhouette and it's not what I want, then I have an opportunity to change it. But if I start like adding layers, it's going to be much harder to just retract, step back, and then follow another path. So yeah, that's the whole idea. So anyhow, and so the thing that I'm actually finding a challenge is that I am making the toaster on the painting smaller than the actual toaster in front of me. So I'm shrinking everything, and I feel like my brain is still not adapting to that change. So anything that feels odd, I actually think it's a good opportunity to practice. Oops. To practice something different. Because I feel like we're used to maybe enlarging, because we're working from photographs and screens and stuff like that. But when it comes to shrinking, it just becomes a little bit challenging. Right. So how am I going to treat the light? I feel like for me, it's very important. I just put a canvas underneath. It's on a stool. I wanted to have a view of the openings of the toaster. And I'm just going to treat it as an infinite space, as an infinite horizontal space. Let's see how that, and I already have a challenge here because there's the light direction comes from here. So I'm going to try to place the cast shadows. So notice that all this work that I'm doing, it's necessary and important to break down a couple of elements, mostly composition and light on the scene, before I start tackling colors and details and stuff like that. We tend to step forward too much and forget about or overlook so many important things that happen before we start painting. So yeah, I think that's going to be a good idea to just treat this all as a flat surface, because by not, and I'm getting inspired by her painting, by not adding any edges on the table and not adding any background, I remove any breadcrumbs for the viewer to spend time thinking where this is happening and where uh, the the elements may create a different narrative or put a spatial context in that scene. No, this is just going to be a strictly a toaster and without any reference except for the light direction, because I have the light facing it this way, so it creates a shadow. But the rest, it's just going to be an infinite space with no distinction or no end to the horizontal surface. And without any paint, I feel I'm going on the right path or through the right path. I just love the idea of studying the composition very, very thoroughly, making sure that I have an intention to do this within a format. I started from scratch a couple of times just because I wasn't happy with the initial composition. And now with the inspiration of the painting, I just feel that this is going to give me a sense of isolation of the object, that it's going to contribute to the idea perhaps of sadness, of I think mostly isolation. You know, the toaster is unplugged. It cannot perform its function. There is no bread, and there's no vestige of human intervention. And it's not going to be placed on an environment that's going to help surround the toaster with something recognizable. Perfect. So the more you can elaborate how you conceptually thread your reasons to make your artistic decisions, the better the painting will be. And oh, and one thing, this is something tangential, but one thing that I forgot to mention yesterday, there were so many things that I wanted to talk about. And then once you're live, it's really challenging. I'm learning a lot. It's the fact that toasters, I had no idea, but it was interesting to discover, are the appliances that cause more destruction in the home and more deaths. In fact, I found a couple of insurance companies that deal with that kind of coverage, and they put the toasters at the top of the list of things that cause more damage to homes and more deaths. And I feel like the last statistic, and maybe Jen, you can corroborate or see if that's true. I think there was 800 deaths around the world caused by toasters. People putting their knives inside of the toaster to remove whatever it's in there that may have fallen, or any kind of like a bit of cheese that that's on the bottom of it, and not unplugging the toast and getting electrocuted, fires in the home, burning homes down. And it was shocking. And if I may say this, and I hope you guys haven't had any story of like a death by toaster in your families, but at the same time hilarious, because this is such a harmless appliance. We have such I would say feelings of fondness of using this appliance to create happiness. The smell of a toast, the noise of the crunchy bread. It just feels like it's such a almost like romantic piece of electronics. Well, it could be a killing machine. And so it's much higher than any other appliance in the home. And I was totally unaware of that. So please don't leave your toasters plugged. Don't put anything inside them. There are stories of, I'm just gonna go there because there are stories of people losing jewelry inside of the toasters and trying to retrieve them with metals, and having to have their arm reattached because of the electrocution. So I was having a good time just reading all that stuff. Sorry.
Julio, in doing this research, I found a headline that says toasters more dangerous than sharks.
Oh my gosh.
But you're
Wow.
right. It must be between 700 and 800 a year. People worldwide are killed by toaster fires and electrocution, because one article says 700 and one says 800.
Wow.
Crazy. But real quick, I have a quick story talking about like the coziness of a toaster and the smell of toast. So this is a little lame, but like different sports teams have their traditions that they bring into a locker room, to sorry, into a visitor's locker room to make it feel like it's their space, and to give them the confidence to go to another football field and win. And they have these traditions. And my rival college, so I went to Virginia Tech. My rival college is UVA, and we of course make fun of them because their tradition is to take a toaster with them when they go on the road, and they make toast in the visiting locker room. So in
Oh
their
my
locker room,
gosh.
to make it feel like home. Is that not crazy? No. I mean, it's probably the most heartwarming, amazing thing you've ever heard, but because it's my rival college, I'm like, those idiots.
Wow.
Just made me think of it when you were talking about the smell of toast. Because what's better than that? Popcorn, the smell of popcorn, and the smell of toast.
Oh my gosh, so amazing. That
Quick
is
story.
such a great story. And it's funny because you associate sports with competition and really hard, strong feelings, and none of this homey
Right.
stuff.
I know. I think that's why, we kind of roll our eyes because we're like, what? It's not like music to pump you up or, just something. I don't know. It's toast.
Oh man, I love it.
I don't know.
Thanks, Jen, for sharing. That's a great story. Yeah, that's a great
Sure.
story. Cool. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, thanks for your contribution, because I discovered also more stories that I wasn't aware of. I mean, different than that, obviously, but interesting in that sense. So, yeah, thanks so much. This is hilarious. Um, okay, so I think I'm okay, and it's 7:35, but I mean 7:35, 11:35 our time. But I was going to give myself until 11:30, but that's fine. So I'm fine with deconstruction of the light, and it is crucial. I don't care if you just do the charcoal and then just do a little bit of a wash, but it is crucial on a still life in which we are trying to uh, put the spotlight on the toaster, that we study the light direction and how the light direction it's creating shadows and highlights on the object. Um, we disregard that aspect because light is invisible, but we know how important it is to create an illusion of space, perspective, depth, and also to create the illusion of spatial context. Anyhow, so, and charcoal is the best to do that. Uh, Articulating or breaking down or taking apart your values to understand that there's one part that's going to absorb or reflect the light, there's another part that's going to have the shadows. That alone will build so much elevation or yeah, interest on the painting. So we tend to rely too much on line work and lines, and we understand that for us lines equal or I'm sorry, drawing equal lines. Drawing is more than lines. Drawing is shading, drawing is composition, drawing is quality, like line quality, shading quality. So all those things are also drawing. So don't rely only on lines. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? And think that you don't need to shade because you want to jump in right away with you may be lucky and 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 understand the light direction, but nothing helps me understand the compositional of light more than shading with charcoal. So I'm using my big brush. I have my rag. Um, I'm gonna do a wash, and I'm so happy because at first sight, this is very monochromatic. My toaster is not colorful, although I was checking some vintage toasters and they had such beautiful what is it called? Colors. I forgot. It'll come to me, but the gorgeous greens and reds and yeah, and yellows. So I have the paint from Wednesday, and I think I'm just gonna use gray. Yeah, I'm just gonna use gray. So what I'm doing right now. Oh, by the way, so really quickly, really quickly. So this is my palette, and I have my primary neutrals, titanium white, zinc white, which I didn't touch, gray, and my two blacks. Paints gray right here, Van Dyke brown. You don't have to have this. You can have only black and white, whatever paint there is. But we've gone on detail in previous tutorials and webinars about why having two whites and two blacks, it's so good. I have what I call my secondary neutrals here, 4 of them. So raw umber, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and ecru, and we like to organize them by value. Since the two darks are right here in the corner, so we organize the paint by value from darker to lighter. And the more we do this, the more we realize how helpful it is not to have paint that it's contains a lot of white right next to paint that contains a lot of dark notes. Sometimes working with yellow or the pale blue, we always get frustrated because it gets muddy really quickly. Well, if you organize the palette in a way that the light colors are the furthest away from the dark colors, you may have a better chance of not contaminating the lighter colors with a little bit of the darker notes. So organize your palette by value. We highly encourage that. And then we have the two light neutrals, which I am still having a hard time finding out how to define them. But yeah, we have the salmon rose and the periwinkle. I just love to say those words, so forgive me if that sounds pedantic. I don't know if that word exists, but yeah, salmon rose and periwinkle, because you guys use different brands of paint. I know that most of you use Gamblin, but these are two colors specifically from Gamblin, and they label them radiant red and radiant blue, but that's like so boring. So anyhow, yeah, so that's the palette and my two liquids, the mineral spirits to do the wash and clean the brushes, and here the combination of medium and oil to create a little bit more consistency. And if you have any questions, you can about this, you can either type them on the chat, or just we can address them later if you want specific details and explanations about the medium and why I choose what I choose. Okay, I'm just gonna use a little bit of the turpentine or the mineral spirits, and I'm gonna wash from darker to lighter. So I put the charcoal for a reason, and the reason is to identify what areas are darker on my composition. So the charcoal is not only to guide me and to allow me to study the scale of light, but it's also giving me a hint of the order of brush strokes and what area I'm going to tackle first with my brush. So I'm just looking at whatever's darker on the image, and I'm just putting a little bit of paint, and that's it. So this is a wash. The main function of the wash is to just prime the paper or the painting surface. Look, already looks amazing, and I think, and seal the charcoal. So this is a foundational, very technical step, and I feel like we rush into the formal painting process, and we start painting buttons right at this step. We need to prep the painting surface. The painting surface needs to be prepped before we actually make any kind of like sophisticated decisions. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just prepping that, and bold strokes, and yeah, I'm just trying to clean this a little bit, and yeah. So the shadow is right here. I almost don't have that much gray. I don't have that much gray on my brush. It's mostly turpentine that gets mixed with yeah, it gets mixed with the charcoal, creating paint, really. And I'm just gonna do the same thing and just give the whole background a little bit of turpentine wash or mineral spirits. And that's it. So I always encourage everyone, or if you're doing this, watch the entire thing. Don't leave any blank spaces, because they're so distracting and they affect the rest of the painting. So I just think that it's important, at least for me, and I see other people doing it as well, to watch the whole thing. All right, so this is my wash, and I think I caught up with the timing, because I just spent 5 more minutes before the extra minutes with the drawing, but the wash was pretty easy, and in that sense. All right, so great. I'm gonna move to first notes. This is exciting because usually sometimes we start first notes even after the first hour, but yeah, first note. So I'm just gonna change the brush from bigger to medium, and I have where's my old hairy guy? Yeah, I have my old and hairy guy. So don't throw any old brushes. And this is perfect because it's a little bit smaller than the big, it's a lot smaller than the big brush, but it's not super refined. So I assure that I'm not gonna start doing super refined details, because that's not what I want at this stage. By the way, this is 12 by 16, so it's a relatively bigger format than we encourage for a 2-hour session. And to be honest, I was just thinking that in a perfect world, this would be a session in which we would start and finish the painting today, because it's a still life and it's fresh. The light changes a lot, but you know, I feel like because it's painted from live, there's a little bit of an extra pressure to push this as forward as possible. But at the same time, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna push it as far as I can. But on Wednesday next week when we do studio time, I'll possibly just continue with this with the same light, approximately the same light, because I think there's something important about adding another pass, and it reminds me of what I did with the candlelight, because I did it a second time with the actual without a photo, because there's no way that I can get the same richness of light from a photo, and I was so happy about it. So that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so and now what? I'm just gonna get some of the medium. Ooh, this is like really thick. I don't know. It like feels like and I think I'm just gonna use a combination of Van Dyke Brown, and I think it's more Van Dyke Brown actually. I'm gonna start with the darkest darks. So first notes is when I block out, I think that would be the idea. And I'm using the bigger brush. And actually, just gonna change the drawing a little bit. And so it doesn't feel as regular. This is shorter. And I'm just working on the dark notes right now using Van Dyke Brown and using this the ratty brush. I don't want definition. I just you know, yeah, Villa's paintings are wonderful because they're hyper realistic, but I'm just using them as an inspiration for what they are worth for me. So I'm not gonna just try to replicate the style or anything like that. So that's what I'm doing. And yeah, just checking on the black areas or the areas with a lot of black in them, and then just blocking them out. And obviously there's some darker gray, and I feel like it's the Van Dyke Brown, not the Payne's gray. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going over, and with the excitement of the still life is that I'm not going to do the little trick of having the plastic on top of it. So there's a little bit more of an interpretation. Yeah, I'm a little bit freer here. I don't know. I just brought some titanium white and I'm a little bit nervous because I feel like maybe it's too early for titanium white, but we'll see. All right, so darker to lighter. I think I just need to concentrate on that idea. And I'm not trying to match any colors. I'm just going to block out. Yeah, I'm just gonna block out what I see. And let me see if I can just pull some of the quotes, because one of the best things about the assignment, because at the very beginning, there was no necessarily very strong conceptual reason why we chose this. I just watched the video and I thought it was hilarious. And then Julie just shared her story about her great-grandfather being the inventor of the Toastmaster, which was the first patent to actually warm up the toast on both sides and have like a timer mechanism to pop the toasts. And then I knew that this was very serendipitous and we had to do it. But then just digging in with quotes and poems and articles and stuff like that, I just discovered wonderful synergetic and tangential things that spoke to my process, that spoke to creativity, that spoke to so many things. And I just want to go back to Villa's quotes about, let me see if I can, yeah, I was saying the reason I think I do images that require so much time is that I feel the physical work itself lets some other things that come through, I don't know how this is written, but letting something unconsciously seep through some subtlety that my brain was not capable of figuring out. This essentially, it's a good description of painting. And I love the idea of, I'm going to take the words physical work, and then letting something unconsciously seep through. Because I feel like if I put those two things together, this one of the reasons why this feels so good, our painting, just concentrating on the work. And why am I bringing, look at all this dripping. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because right now I'm making decisions based on just the process. I'm just deciding what's darker, what's lighter, and I'm just putting little bits of chunks of, of value that I think that kind of like works. But I'm not being too attached to results or anything like that. Okay, I'm making a change. Instead of like a titanium white, I'm just gonna bring ecru because I feel like my eyes are starting to adjust, and the stainless steel, I feel like it's stainless steel. It's not really that cold. It's a little bit warmer. So I'm just gonna bring that up. And I think that's okay. So yeah, so I'm just gonna bring this also. And there's something here that I probably need to shave. There's an edge, a beautiful edge on this part of the paintings. I'm just gonna try to bring this. And there's definitely almost like yellow ochre mixed with gray. So maybe it's the light, I'm not sure, but I'm bringing different colors right now. Yeah, I think it's the light coming from the window that just gives this golden tone. I'm gonna take an opportunity and just bring it in just because. Yeah, so don't worry about the look of it. If it's too compartmentalized, if it's too perfect and clean, then worry about it because it shouldn't be, it should be messy. It should be messy. It should be sort of like all over the place. Otherwise, it'll put you in a place of constrained and you know, not enough room to make decisions. So the more specific you are right now, the more you're going to struggle. So let go. I know it's easier said than done, but just let go. Don't put too much pressure on what this is supposed to look like at this stage. It's okay. I was watching yesterday. I highly recommend actually that I'll find the name. There's a painter. Oh my gosh, Jen, you're gonna have to help me with so many little information. John something, a British painter that lived at the same time as Lucian Freud. He did a self-portrait that it's in the National Portrait Gallery, this painter, John something. And Lucian Freud also did a painting, a portrait of him that's kind of like well known. And he was gay and he killed himself, and he was in the same group as Lucian Freud and those other guys at the time.
Okay.
And yeah, John something.
What do we call those guys? Like London. Oh, what do we call them?
1960s. and you can bring the portrait if you find it.
I'll start with Lucian Freud, John, whatever. Okay, cool.
They're all friends, and oh, here. I got it. I got the name. The name is John Minton. John Minton. BBC produced a documentary not a while ago, and it's online, and absolutely stunning work and just beautiful. And so I was watching that, and he was well known at the time, but he was well known as an illustrator and as a painter, and he always had this conflict of not exactly knowing which one he was. And some of the work, Jen, I think you're gonna love. I mean, you're gonna love it. Everyone, if you can find it. But Lucian Freud portrait, of course. But anyhow, so everything was so messy and so authentic, and I just love that. And it was so inspiring to be a little bit more careless. Anyhow, so that's what I'm doing right now. And perhaps I'm just gonna bring. How about if I bring some ecru? Just gonna, because I need the background. I'm working on first note, so I'm not panicking. I'm gonna bring some zinc white. Is that? Yeah, no, it's too warm. Scratch that. So I'm just gonna bring some periwinkle. Yeah, I think periwinkle, it's a better color. All right, so periwinkle and white. So yeah, that was inspiring. I try when at nighttime. So our routine is it's the time that we have that we can Kiana and I, that we can hang out and we can just like spend time together and stuff. And we try to watch something that feels oh my gosh, without insulting anybody. I mean, the days are so filled with nonsense these days that we try to find something that it's intellectually uplifting. And I sound like a snob because I love cheesiness. I love cheese. And it's so good to disconnect and get plugged in. I mean, I just watched the whole Bridgerton thing, and I loved it. And it's so bad, but it's so good. And I had a good time. But anyhow, so sometimes we just try to watch documentaries about painters or designers. Kian is a clothing designer. So trends and something that feels inspiring. So this was really good. I highly recommend this John Minton documentary, and you'll love the paintings. And then there's a channel called Nowness. Let me just Nowness. Yeah, and so they have it's a lifestyle channel, but it's very uppity. Can I use this word without being insulting? In the sense of being very high end and sophisticated. So being a lifestyle, they have different series. One for food, one for travel, one for art. It's sort of like a visual magazine. And there's one that's it's called In Residence. And what they do, they feature homes by homes where artists, authors, writers, and intellectuals live in different parts of the world. And they're only like a minute or two long, but they're so beautiful and they're so inspiring, and it's so good. And they do a brief interview, and they say so many wonderful things, and I highly recommend it. And so yesterday we watched In Residence with Ricardo Bofill. Ricardo Bofill, sorry, I'm taking you guys on a, you can mute me. Bofill. Ricardo Bofill, it's a Catalan architect. It's not super well known, but it's known in Spain. And I grew up hearing news about him all the time. So he was constantly on the news. Such building designed by Ricardo Bofill, inaugurated Ricardo Bofill Pavilion, blah, blah, blah. So it was this kind of news. So he lives in he bought an old factory, an abandoned old factory, and made it his home slash lab workspace. And most of the artists, when they talk about homes, what's interesting is that everything's all together. Their spaces are not just one, 2 bedroom, 3 bathrooms kind of like category. It's just a hub in which creative things happen. And the bedroom has a function of a bedroom, but it has other functions. So it's really cool. Anyhow, so he was saying that he's not interested in luxurious surfaces, things that are polished and metallic and gold and marble and stuff. He is interested in rugged, natural surfaces, and that's the end of my journey. The fact that on a painting, don't polish too much. Don't think that things have to be too perfect or too captured in a very realistic way. Embrace this idea of untidiness equaling beauty. And gosh, I'm gonna sit at the steps of a church or a temple and put a hat to see if they give me some pennies for my preaching. All right, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just continuing with this white with a little bit of the periwinkle. I just need, and I'm gonna bring some more medium and oil. I need to have a base for the paper before I continue with my, or I start my second notes. Right, time-wise, it's, I should have finished by now the first hour. Oops. But yeah, but that's okay. So I'm refreshing the medium. It was too gunky and it created too much resistance. And I just need to focus and work a little bit faster. So if you've done your due diligence with the composition at the very beginning of the painting process, you will be ahead of the game. There's nothing more frustrating than being in the middle of the whole thing and then realizing that that's not the proper arrangement or the arrangement that you wanted. And well, actually, Jen, just for the sake of it, if you have some time, if you can find Ricardo Bofill's factory home, because it's pretty incredible, you know, because when you think architecture, you think everything clean lines and stuff like that, but it's just such a rugged space. It's so interesting. And most of the this kind of like intellectuals, oh my gosh, time and time again, they're more interested in the bare essentials, and they're annoyed by anything that it seems accessory. All right, so I just did my background. Oh, and also I watched a painting of George Condo painting. George Condo is a contemporary artist American contemporary artist who lives in New York. And there's a video of him in the studio just creating a painting from beginning to end. No music, you just hear the actual brushes and the oil sticks echoing in the studio space. Uh, Talk about MSAR, whatever that is, that it's supposed to calm you down. We were not even making noise chewing. It was just and completely hypnotizing just to see the artist painting from beginning to end, and just hearing the tools at work. Um, Absolutely fascinating. Please, 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 literally pull the plug on the contemporary toaster and then plug your mind into um, a well of creative richness. So it soothes the pain. It's the best thing you can do. There's so much beauty in this world and so many smart people out there saying so many wonderful things. Um, do yourself a favor and plug to that kind of vibration. All right, so first notes, I'm done with first notes. This will be a very wild painting. I'm just gonna change the brush and I'm gonna explain what's gonna be next and what kind of brushes I'm gonna use and why. And let me see if I can find them. Okay, here we go. I don't need the super small one. So yeah. So I'm moving from the old hairy guy and I'm just bringing also medium brushes, but these are a little bit tighter and shorter so I can create a more precise mark on the painting. I want a little bit more precision. The frayed one allowed me to block very broadly, but now I just want to get in and start making marks or cuts with different colors. And the size is not that important really, because I also brought this, which is a little bit bigger, but it's pointier. So to me, it's more about the capability of making marks rather than how big or small the brush is. So I'm just gonna bring that and then I'm just gonna go darker to lighter. How about I start with, oh, this is very hard. Let me see what happened here. Let me see what happened. Okay, so now it's better. I think it was a little bit harder. All right, so not much medium. There's a little bit of medium already on the palette. There's not much medium here. And what I'm doing right now is I'm gonna do darker to lighter. And I'm being, rather than being sort of like blocking out, I'm pixelating right now. I'm pixelating the strokes, the marks. Yeah, I think that's good. And also I have to say, I think the tutorial that we did about streetscapes and the work of Stuart Shills really affected me in a positive way, because he has such a great eye for composition, and it was so interesting to see how he is interested in the essence of what he's looking at, and he's not letting his observation be distracted by details. And the results are remarkable. The paintings are so strong and powerful. So I'm trying to be a little bit less tidy, to be honest, a little less tidy. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of the shadows. How about that? And also watching that George Condo. I mean, so sloppy. Kian was almost like upset at the beginning. He said, what is he doing? There was such freedom in seeing someone being so free with a brush and a canvas. It was so good. Anyhow, I'm just like doing the wire. Yeah, I don't have to. Yeah, that's the proof. You don't have to be super detailed with a few marks and strokes, and being stripping the distractions and concentrating on the essential. You'll get so much. So you won't need to overwork or yeah. I was also inspired by, and I'm gonna bring that painting quickly because there was something really. It's the only painting of toaster. But I was also inspired by this because it's this one right here. Because it's titled The Toaster. I see the wires, but I cannot make sense of the toaster. I mean, is it broken? I don't see, I see something splitting or bursting on the side. And then the things on the table, the toaster is on books, but then there's this ribbon that has a knot. It seems like there's green plastic behind, and is that floss on the right side? It's so confusing, and it's so good because I feel like we always try to be predictable in showing what we're painting, and it's almost as if we have to prove that we're able to paint something recognizable. And then there's this that doesn't follow any order, and it's so refreshing and interesting. So I was really inspired, and this actually made me choose photos of used toasters from Craigslist, because people take awful photos when they sell stuff. It's just sometimes it's just hilarious. And I just thought that it's not only not hilarious, it's good. Like bad compositions and so many weird things. Oops, sorry. So yeah, I am not going to sort of like be super careful about. Let me just do the dark notes first. All right, so I'm doing second notes right now, and the second notes I have like 45 minutes, a little bit longer, but yeah. So I'm shrinking the areas that I'm working on. I'm making them a little bit smaller, and I'm putting more paint and less turpentine, so it creates a little bit harder edges. I have an opportunity now to work the edges from both sides, so I'm just going to have to build opacity in certain spots and then make sure to see how the edges of those pixelated areas, how they end on the other side. So this is more formal painting. And go back to what Villa said, physical work and the seeping of the unconscious from our brains. So don't focus too much on results. I know that's important, but I just feel like, at least for this session, I want to stretch my subconscious. It feels that it's so tight and it's so full. There's no space for anything else. I'm gonna let the painting make room, open up a door, let me in, let my subconscious in a different room. Okay, so I'm just working on that edge. and then one step at a time. Another way of approaching this is also, and I know that it's useless when people tell me that, or when I hear it, I understand it, but I don't know how to put it in practice. But paint as if you wouldn't associate what you're painting with a toaster. So paint this without thinking it's a toaster. Just look at the edge or look at the color and just apply it where it is, where you think it is. But try not to fall back into thinking how close to a toaster your work is, because then you're gonna get trapped. So zoom in, focus on one corner. Let's say I have half an inch at the bottom, and this half an inch is diagonal and it's not super black, it has a gray. So it has a little bit of a darker line on top. So I am describing things from the point of view of what they look like without associating them to an object. And I feel that could be a good way, if you can make sense of it, of approaching painting something without focusing too much on what it should look like. And we can afford to do that more so now that we are working remotely. We don't have, we're not in an open public space. We don't have anyone painting next to us. So I feel like allow yourself to experiment in that sense more about all these things that I'm talking about. So I'm doing the shadows here and a little bit darker at the bottom. Okay. All right. Uh-oh, hold on 1 second, you guys. So just gonna, oops, sorry. Yeah, one of my dogs knows that I'm working, and then she goes to the trash and starts digging on the trash. So she's very smart. All right, so I'm gonna also clean up a couple of edges. But I'm gonna concentrate on darks. I think that's very important because I'm starting to get distracted. And then I'm starting to follow my eyes rather than my strategy. So let's just go back to the technical way of approaching this, darker to lighter. So that's what I'm gonna stick with, because I was getting distracted by what I was seeing and what I thought I wanted to do, but it's important to just go back to the strategy. So darker to lighter, and stick with it. So I'm just going to do all the darker knobs, and then I'm going to jump to the shadows. And I want something super dark, so I'm just going to bring the both blacks together, the coal and the warm, and that's going to create a really rich black, because there's one area that's hollow that's really, really dark. And I'm just going to get it as dark as I can. I'm flickering my eyes back and forth constantly. I think that's good. It's just going to bring that that tone. And then there's a shadow behind the lever. So I'm just gonna bring that. And maybe like a small edge. So okay. I just have like a super tiny brush, and sometimes you know, I use it to create details or highlights. And I think the light changed a little bit, and I like the fact that it's a little bit darker. So I'm just gonna go ahead and bring that darker note. But you know what? This is not part of, this is an example of what it means to get distracted. Because I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing the darks, but here I am um, just working on an area that I feel it complements what I just painted. Okay, well, let me just go to the other knob at the bottom and see if I can just bring this a little bit clearer. Okay, and the base at the bottom, I think that's also very important. I'm just gonna bring that. So I'm trying to do darker to lighter. I'm working on second notes. I'm making changes. I'm not concerned about proportions or anything. I can take care of like certain changes later, but I just want to, and I have some, okay, just for the sakes of it. I know that you guys, but she's just, this is the little thief. She just wanted to come say hello. All right, so go. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, she's very sneaky. So, yeah, and I'm just working on the darker notes right now. So there's something up here that's dark. It's like a crack between. So I'm just doing the crack, and then I'm just gonna darken this area. So I just go one section at a time, still second notes, and I try to follow the organization of the values. As I said, it helps if I don't think I'm doing a toaster. I know that's silly to say, but and it's hard to do. But what I try to do is to hone in one part of the object, identify some, articulate to myself what are the visual elements that are specific to that area, the color, the value, mostly those two, and then just try to replicate them on. Yeah, and I'm changing things already. I'm changing things because the top needs to be lowered on that end. So I'm shaving a little bit on the top. I don't know if that was good or not, but yeah. And I need to shave on the side too. There's more angle here. That's something that happens frequently. We tend to make diagonal lines a little bit too close to a vertical or a horizontal. I think that already works much better. Yeah, already works much better. It's not that it means anything, but it's harmonizes the shape. Just gonna bring a tad of that, maybe with a small brush, the reflections of the thickness of the metal. and some other areas right here. Okay, so I think yeah, it's helping me build what I have, build on what I have bit by bit. Yeah, I think that's very good in that sense. Okay, this needs to be lower. So let me just bring some darker nodes and lower this part of the toaster, because there's something here that needs to be lower. So right now I'm making adjustments to the drawing, and just make sure that you're open to that idea, because you're going to see things move or have a different perspective. And we have to be prepared and ready when that happens, and be open to make dramatic changes. I think that's okay. It's kind of like, okay, yeah. And I need to shave this part on the side. So I'm molding the edges as I build some values. I realized that some edges of the toaster need to be shaved. It's a good object to paint, actually. So yeah, I'm just getting a little bit happier with what's going on right here. Yeah, I think it's building nicely. I'm going to make a quick assessment in the sense of so far what I've got, if it aligns with the idea that I had at the very beginning of the assignment when I talked about the intentions with the composition. And I think it does, just because it brings more attention to the toaster and removing that narrative from outside, not bringing the edge of a table or any objects. I just feel like it brings more of the spotlight on the object. And by all means, we provided examples of photographs, especially the photograph of a self-portrait, that incorporated images, faces, objects, toasts. So I'm not saying that there's only one path to do this. I'm trying to rationalize my decisions at the very beginning and make a little bit of a pause to find out if the step that I'm at this far aligns somewhat with those intentions. And I feel it does. So, and that's all it matters. So I think this needs to be lowered a tad. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start bringing some highlights, because I feel like I'm gonna get this brushed look on the metal by just bringing some, I need to squint my eyes a lot, some of these reflections. I'm gonna place them with the titanium white first. And there, I know there's some periwinkle, and then I will blend them with the hairy brush. And things don't have to fall perfectly on your composition. I mean, sometimes I just make it work without changing it too much. And going back to the idea of the essence of it, just the essence of what we're doing. So yeah, I'm just bringing a few of those highlights. The image is much more complex, obviously, but I'm painting. I'm adding that physical work, and yeah, just letting that flow that Villa was mentioning, that flow of things that my brain hasn't figured out. But because I'm focusing on the physical work, I'm helping it figure it out. I just thought it was kind of like a genius approach to describing painting, by focusing on process, rather than focusing on other stuff. Okay, this is the opening. Oh, I need to make it much wider. Interesting. Okay, good. I'm making all sorts of discoveries. Oh, that's very good. Yeah, yep. That's excellent. And my brain is figuring things out right now. Um, as I move forward. Okay. Sounds, yeah, I think that's good. All right, so how to blend when you have a highlight. So what I did was I placed a highlight almost as a spot, and then I get my uh, blushing brush, the old and hairy one, and then I wipe it completely, so there's no paint and there's no liquid, so it's like a blushing brush, whatever that's called. And then almost in a vertical way, I just pinch those edges that it's still wet. I pinch them and I drag them, um, so they become, look at this metallic effect, reflection on this corner alone. So I don't put too much pressure. The idea is not to drag. The idea is just to let those bristles do the blushing. I'm blushing the hard edges of the spots that I added. Yeah, so look at the edge also. It creates a little bit of more of an integrated look, and I think that's working. I'm not unhappy. So yeah, it's a good time. It's half an hour before the conclusion. So I'm already incorporating highlights and blending. I think that could be a good opportunity to do that if you haven't already. Let me try to define or articulate or provide language to where I'm at right now. I'm doing second notes. I'm working from darker to lighter, but I made a switch. This is not just going one location at a time. I am incorporating highlights right now. So I moved from the darker spots, which are the bottom on the knobs and this area right here, to highlights on the surface. And the way I did it is by using titanium white and applying the titanium white as spots on the areas that I wanted the light to feel or look reflected. And after I added the spots, it just looked like a piece, like I taped something, or I just I taped something. I used the old and hairy brush. A pointy brush will not allow you to do this sort of like soft blending. So something you could try, and maybe with a pointy brush you could just with very gentle pressure you can try to smudge the edges. But yeah, the brilliance of old brushes is that they're so open, fan out, that the bristles don't touch the what is it called, Jen? The shoes of the
toes.
The toes. Thanks, friend.
Sure.
The toes are not tight or close together. They're separated. So that gives you an opportunity for each individual bristle to really do its job, dragging without, blending or blushing without dragging. So yeah, it's always a good idea to have those brushes just for that blending. Don't get, now I'm getting carried away because I love what's going on right here, and I was just gonna blend a lot. I'm just gonna stop myself because blushing could be so much fun that then you get carried away, and instead of being used as a tool, it's being used as a decorating thing. So don't get too carried away with the blending. Don't blend too much. I mean, that's really harsh what I just said. A good instructor should never use the word don't or no. I just won't be able to do that. But if you ever attend a session or a class or something, and the instructor, the facilitator, they say a lot of don't or no, yeah, just be careful. All right, I'm just bringing now, I'm working on this corner. I just feel like this corner is giving me so much to work with. There's a reflection at the bottom, a reflection of the wire. So what I'm gonna do is, let me strategize. I have half an hour. So, and what I wanna do with this half an hour, I like to work in chunks of 10 minutes because it's short enough to work on an area without getting bogged down. And it gives me enough time to accomplish a lot within those 10 minutes. So unless I have a specific strategy, I always check myself every 10 minutes because otherwise I know that, you know, I'm going to look at the clock and it's just going to be an hour. So I'm just going to bring some darker areas, and I haven't even considered the background. I need to work on the background a lot more. This is much darker. I'm now facing the challenge of painting over white or layers that have white paint and not getting the darkness that I want. It's okay. I'm just putting a little bit more black paint and hoping that's gonna work, honestly. But if not, I have the rag and I can just bring the rag and wipe it off. All right, so I'm just gonna work on this edge. I just feel like this corner gives me so much and it's showing so much that I want to give it some TLC and make a little bit more sense of it. Every tiny brush stroke will contribute to the development of the work. Whether it develops on a direction that you intended or not, it's a different story. But don't underestimate the power of a small stroke, the power that it has to change and alter things. It's a little bit lighter, so I'm just going to bring more titanium white and more accurate. I just think that it's too cold. All right. Yeah, it's nicely building. It's I'm trying to build by chunks, and painting metal, when you say the words, okay, let's like paint metal, it's so scary. It just feels like, you know what, this is the most complicated surface ever. But rather than approaching it by defining what it is, I just approach it by observing how it displays. There's a chunk that's darker and it's trapezoid-like. So let me just try to capture that. And then there is an edge that looks like it's bluish. So I'm just going to put a chunk. So I don't rush in anticipating an effect. I just build one brushstroke at a time, and I concentrate on what I see rather than thinking how I should paint it to make it look like something. And it works, and in the end it works. I just discovered something that's a lot of fun on the painting, that there's this reflection of the, I'm going to try to make it, the reflection of the wire creates a heart shape. So the wire, the way it's placed, it just yeah, it just becomes almost like a heart shape. So I'm just going to bring that reflection. Obviously, it's not the same because it's not it's not a highly reflective surface. That's what I wanted to say. It's not a highly reflective surface, but I'm gonna do my best to just bring it. Yeah, I think that's good. I actually like that. I mean, it's a little bit on the cheese side because, but I'm not gonna make it too heart shapey. I feel like I haven't discovered this until now. So if I make it way too evident, I think it's gonna take over and then become the thing of this painting. Um, I want it to be there, but not to come first. So I'm gonna see if I can get that. um, so I'm just bringing this edge, and then we'll use the dry brush and try to blend certain areas because the quality, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it like that. Oh, what's this? It's just like terrible dripping. It shouldn't drip this much. I think I just had like a too much of a gunky cup, and then because it was gunky, I just scooped too much, and then it's dripping a lot. It shouldn't. Drips. Let's talk about drips. They will happen, but if they happen a lot, then I would just start considering changes on the combination of liquids. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I think I'm getting engaged in directing the scene, if you will, if you let me, Jen, because I feel like the plug, it's more important than I thought. So I just feel like I need to work on this a little bit more. But before going there, oh, I'm not unhappy about this. This is looking okay. It's decent. So it's still working on second notes. And I just wanted to bring also, yeah, I mean, I just put some quotes that I found that I didn't mention because I thought they were not that universal, but I'm just going to mention them about toasters. Drake, I think in one of the lyrics or one of the songs, he says, "Burn bread every day, boy, no toaster." And I just love, yeah, I love that sentence, using the idea or the words bread and toaster in the same sentence and meaning to me, I mean, this is like to me, it means like, spend it all. You don't need a toaster, but I may be wrong. Who knows? I'm not that familiar with different meanings of the word bread and toaster. But anyhow, I like it. Burn bread every day, boy. No toaster. This one, it could be the epitaph. I don't know if that's a proper word, to a tombstone. In the long run, everything is a toaster, by Bruce Greenwald. Also a good quote, I would say. It's a little bit depressing, but and one mentioned by Mark S. Fowler, and I don't know what they did. This guys, he said that a TV is just a toaster with pictures, which I think this one, I chose this one. A TV is like a toaster with pictures, because I feel like it was getting me closer to conceptually finding a reason to doing this based on the fact that we've been glued to what's been happening out there, and how we are inside of a toaster, a metaphorical toaster, and we are getting burned. But anyhow, I just thought this would be interesting to share at the same time. And I'm just going to continue. I have another, I would say 20 minutes. And that was too light. And I'm just gonna bring that darker area. And also, let me find this article. Gosh, I hope you can find it. The whole idea of like tabloids, and the reason why I like that initial video of the lady just saying that toaster was haunted. And Lois, I agree with you. She did a freaking amazing job being serious about it. And even though that was from 88 or 84, um, it aged very well because she doesn't look like she was kidding. You know, her acting was on point. And so when you said, you know, give her the Oscar, I agree. She was. And then on IMDb, some people were commenting about being one of the greatest interviews in TV history. And there's this article in the Free Republic. I don't even know what kind of political approach, but it doesn't sound very promising. It's hilarious. The article, it was published in November 23rd, 2010. And it's supposed to be a comical, I guess, article. It talks about the death related toasted related deaths there at an all-time high, the article says. And he mentioned some doctors and world organizations, and for the sake of it, I just Googled them, but they don't exist, so you know that this is all bunkers. In the article, quote, at the steep rate that toaster deaths are increasing, the entire human race may soon be wiped out, claimed Dr. Willie. I just highlighted some sentences that made me laugh. Most often, toaster deaths are caused by a lack of respect and fear for the common toaster. Toasters are programmed only to toast. They know nothing else. They feel no pain. They have no compassion. And he goes on and on about stories from this doctor, Dr. Jack Snow. And then Dr. Snow works for the Aaron Burr Medical Institution, which specializes in toaster-related injuries. He has treated dozens of toaster injuries in the past decade. I'm going to put the link of this article.
Did you say Aaron Burr?
Yeah.
Aaron Burr Medical Center that specializes in toaster related injuries?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Wait, the Aaron Burr Medical Institute doesn't exist.
Oh, okay. Is this all a farce?
I'm sorry?
Did I miss something? This is all a farce?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm taking it so seriously. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just brought it up because it was so fun to read. I'm just gonna, here, I just posted the link. If you want to read it, it's gonna crack you up. And this is, yeah, I just thought it was hilarious. And this made me think, and I'm just not going to take too much time away from painting. It made me think of a time, and that's why I wrote the art statement for the series in such a way. Conspiracy theories used to be entertaining. They used to provide, made us laugh and give us sort of a lighter, make us be in a lighter mood or something. Stories on papers of UFO abductions, and I just thought they were hilarious, and it was fun to kind of like read this sort of like garbage journalism. And that was a time when conspiracy theories, they were harmless. But fast forward to today, and it's just, the monster is out of the bag. And So anyhow, just going back to the painting, sorry guys, but that was my stitching together the toaster as a subject for a painting and what's happening today. Let me just go and give this plug some protagonism because it desperately needs some attention. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give some TLC. I think the plug alone could have some, yeah, some attention. So I'm just going to work on things about the plug and whatever I can add. I think that's a good idea to just bring some tones and or maybe conspiracy theories have never been harmless. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too nice, and they've always had the same mission. I just felt like when I read those things, I loved the stories. I thought they were hilarious. I never believed them, but maybe they were not that harmless after all, because obviously some people believe that stuff about the toaster. And then I'm just gonna I'm gonna trim that shape. I'm gonna trim it from the outside. I just feel like I need to draw. Yeah, I'm gonna spend the rest of the time working on the plug. How's that? Because I kind of like that idea of two different sizes. I've always loved to root for the underdog, and I feel like the plug is the underdog in this painting. So I want to give it to some TLC and make sure that it doesn't get forgotten. Jen, have you watched Bridgerton by any chance?
I started it, but I had to go on to something else, and then I haven't gotten back to it. But it looks awesome. I've heard it's super fun.
It is fun. Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. Keanu's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "This is ridiculous." I said, "No, no, no. Let me just finish it." So, I loved it.
How many episodes is it, Leo? Is it like 10 or
8?
8? Okay, cool.
8, but it's 1 hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Super fun. Yeah, I really need to get.
But yeah, it's interesting. It's fun. All right, so I'm just going to continue with the black shape. I know sometimes by dedicating just time on an area, it's just going to give me enough definition. So I'm just going to observe and apply. Observe. This needs to be shaped from the top. I think so. And then I need to bring the wire. So yeah. So that's what I'm gonna dedicate the session to the rest of the time. Just gonna work on bringing some details to the wire, to the plug. Yeah, I think that is a good idea. And the background needs some help, so I'm just gonna clean up the background. Sometimes cleaning up the background around an object, it's a way of drawing it. It makes the object more present on the composition, and that alone enhances the drawing aspect of it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Just clean up this area. So the plug stands out a little bit more. I think it's working. And just bring some shadow underneath the toaster. I need to also, I haven't put a lot of work in how the toaster is grounded. And this toaster has 4 legs. And it kind of like hovers over the surface. And I just, my gosh, I just feel like I haven't done it. I feel like now I need to do this. The way it's grounded, I haven't even touched this. I also want to say that the painter, the Latvian American, I need to remember her name, but Via, oh, Jackie, no way. Looks awesome. Via Selmans, we're going to reveal it later, but you guys can see that folder. Via Selmans. She moved on from painting objects, and then she's now painting nature. She's painting the surface of the ocean. She's painting spider webs. The paintings are stunning. They're just so beautiful. And this was only the very beginning when she was at UCLA in the 60s. It must have been really cool to be there painting. She's getting much more attention right now. We should all, here's me kind of like saying what we should do, but I make it a personal choice to try to find out more about this art. And let's not forget, she's still alive, and she was contemporary of the Warhols and all those dudes at the time. And she did her own version of that. Oops, I don't know what I'm doing right now. She did her own version of pop art with these paintings. So she's not mainstream, but I feel like it's important to understand her importance. Yeah, and I forgot to Oldenburg. Is it Oldenburg? He's still alive also. The guy who did the giant ice creams with fabric and how do you Oldenburg? Oldenburg, yeah, Claes Oldenburg. I think he's Swedish. And he's still doing stuff. He's still doing sculptures of inflated, like a beanbag style, also from the pop art. So, anyhow, my point is, like, I'm sick of Andy Warhol. It's just some people are still alive, for God's sake, from that time. I mean, poor guy, whatever, but there's more to pop art than Andy freaking Warhol. Oh my gosh. And if you guys, any of you from New York, please don't hold this against me, because New Yorkers lose their whatever with Andy. It's a god. All right, so sorry. I'm just going back to, yeah, this is nicely building nicely. Okay, so I have a minute, but I'm just gonna work a little bit more, just maybe a couple more minutes. If you are working on this, I would say just try to bring up those final touches. And I'm concentrated in this aspect. I'm concentrating on cleaning up. Whoops, I made a mess on the background. I just brought a little bit more definition around the plug. I think that works. This keeps dripping, so I may have to put this flat for a couple of hours before I continue. And I'm just gonna bring it's like arranging the elements of a room before the party, the guests arrive, and just fluffing the pillows on the couch, and just turning the vase of flowers in a different direction, and lighting the candles or whatever. So this is what I'm doing right now. It's kind of a cleaning up, defining some edges that need to have some more definition, breaking up some areas that feel they read too much like shapes. So I'm just gonna use the old hairy brush, and I'm just gonna blend those edges so they don't feel like shapes. Okay, so yeah, I think that's good. Kind of like sometimes I like to soften some brush strokes just because it enhances the effect of brush strokes on the painting. So I create almost like an intentional composition. And by all means, this, I feel like I want to spend another session, and I will, just because I think I have it in a very sweet spot right now. And anything that I could add to it, it's just going to make it even, it's going to make it stand out even more. But yeah, I want to work on this area right now. I think the light totally changed, and I'm going to change the light on the toaster because I feel like this color, I don't know, I'm not sure. Well, we'll see what's going to happen, but I don't think I'm going to continue working on this for the rest of the day, actually. In fact, because it's a still life and I don't have it in a box or in a permanent light like the way I had the candle, I think I'm just going to do it tomorrow or for sure Wednesday, because I need the same light, the 11 a.m. light. So here's what we're going to do. I hope you guys had fun with this session. I did. This was so good in so many ways. We're going to take a 10-minute break in which we recommend and we remind you to stretch. Number one, any trick you may have for stretching, if you've been sitting down, just whatever it is, we need to bring a stretching expert next time to do sort of like a mini class of stretching. Drink water or liquids, use the restroom, and then take a photo and upload it. We encourage you to do it because it's a way of creating community. You don't have to do it, obviously. We consider every single piece of work a work in progress, and know that some people just upload a wash and that's it, and that's fine. But yeah, so don't feel like this is the show and tell part and that you have to do it and say something. But if you upload it, know that it's going to inspire all of us, and appreciate the fact that you just did it alone. And I will provide whatever I think you should consider in order to continue painting and developing it. So make a distinction. I make a distinction between criticism and critique. And critique is something that I find needs to be constructive and useful and practical. So yeah, so it's 1:03. Let's do 1:15. At 1:15, let's reconvene. I'm going to take a picture and upload it. And if you need help with the photo, you can just text us the photo and we can do it for you, but it's very simple. And we recommend you download the Google app on your smartphone because it's super easy to do it through the app. And also you get notifications when someone uploads it. It's so nice to get a notification of art instead of getting notifications of nonsense. So we'll see you at 1:15. Sorry, yeah, I now it's recording. And yeah, I'm just setting up the options so you can jump in if you like anytime you want. This was nice, actually. It was nice to kind of like stretch and take in all the goodness of the session. I was looking at your paintings. They make me so happy. You guys are incredible. You guys are generous and you guys are patient, and we're so grateful. Thank you so much. This is so inspiring. It's always such a gift to see what you guys came up with. Thanks for being so nice. And I am going to share, and really quickly, I don't want to wait, take too much time because Jen, you uploaded some amazing images and I want to go through them really quickly. Julie sent us this, let me see if I can find, hold on a second. We posted it right here. She has an amazing story. She is the great granddaughter of the inventor of the first pop-up toaster back in 1919. Her grandfather is Charles Strite. And there's a little bit of the story here. And this is a photo of the actual restaurant, I think. First photo is of a waitress demonstrating the Toastmaster at a restaurant when he debuted. So thanks so much for sharing that story. I was just replying to you, and you should be so proud of having such an incredible story in your family. Yeah, just we put something below. It wasn't until 1919 that a Minnesota mechanic named Charles Strite created an easy-to-use toaster designed for restaurants. In 1921, he received his patent for the automatic pop-up toaster. We also brought, Julie also provided this image of the Toastmaster. Hi, Julie.
Hey, yeah, I don't mean to take it over, but it's fun, kind of fun. So I painted this toaster, but I'm just trying to load it up. It's really bad.
Oh.
It was hard to do. But
no, you mentioned something, and I should have like mentioned it during the presentation because it's such a great story. And when do we have the time? I mean, the opportunity to actually have someone that belongs to a family that participated in this. So. This is
my husband always jokes that I'm the great granddaughter of toast, and I don't like it that much. But I do. Well, I do make it once in a while. But thanks for posting that. I just think it's fun. Yeah, he invented a lot of other stuff like.
And since I have you here, say that again. Sorry.
Yeah, I said he invented a lot of other things too. He and his brother. He invented the first push lawnmower. You wouldn't believe the photo from that. A lady is pushing it, and it's like the size of a washing machine. It's really great. Wow. But anyway,
did you get any stories?
There's so many great.
When you were younger about him and stuff, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. But the patent only lasted, into the 30s, I think it was. It expired, or maybe early 40s. So they never, the family never really made money on the toaster. Mm. But it's a great idea. It was a great idea.
Yeah. So. Well,
anyway.
Thanks so much. This was the perfect reason why we finally did it. So thanks to you, since I have you here, that the reason why we did it is because of that story. So thanks for posting and sending the images. And I also put a link. I don't know if it's here. I found a photo and I put a link, and it describes a little bit more his story and stuff like that. So
you're so great to do that. Thank you. That's so cute.
Do you have photos of him? Do you have any memorabilia?
Yeah, we have a family heritage website, and there are a couple of things on there. This one I hadn't seen before. So and then I saw the charlesstrite.com thing that you found, which was great because I had seen that years ago and I forgot about it. So thank you. Yeah, I'll share some of the other funny things later.
Yeah. Please. Thanks. Oh, wait, this is the actual. Oh, yeah. Did you?
So that's the one I'm painting. I'm just trying to get it.
Oh, the ones you painted.
Yeah, that's the one. I just took a close up of that, and I cropped it down.
Okay, so. Perfect. Yeah, well, I mean it's a good idea, and actually, you are in theme or within the theme, and at the same time, you make it personal to your own stories. So I think, regardless of the results, I think this will be a significant painting.
That's what I was thinking. Why not paint something that means something to me? Right. So thank you.
Okay. Cool. and Jackie will go there, and Dennis will go there also. But this is the Lucian Freud painting of John Minton. I think, I don't know if you've seen this before, Jen, but or anyone, but I'm familiar with this painting, and I never put associated with anything. But I remember seeing this painting before. It wasn't at the Getty when they did the show, but right?
Yeah, it wasn't there. And they said it's his most emotional portrait.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lucian
that's
Freud's
wow.
like his
Mhm.
entire career. Oh, yeah,
That's
and
it.
this,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, and this is the John Milton self-portrait, and yeah, it's at the now closed National Portrait Gallery because they're doing construction and it's closed for a few years. But yeah, so thanks for uploading it. And this is Ricardo Bofil's not abandoned, but he bought the factory and he turned, I mean, seriously, it's just ridiculous. I mean, he turned it into his home. This is his home slash studio. Nothing it's painted or new or anything like that, but I don't even know what kind of factory it was, but it's just spectacular. This building is incredible. I've never seen it. You cannot go see it. It's kind of like private. It's not open to the public, but it's quite remarkable how he turned the building into such an amazing home. Jen, thanks so much for posting this because I just think it's incredible. And
Yeah, it was super cool to honestly to find and unearth. It looks like something from a set or like Westworld or something.
Seriously,
It's bananas.
yeah, it's just incredible. I mean, and if you get a chance, if you find an interview, he's a very interesting person. So yeah, but anyhow, this is incredible. Sometimes it pops in magazines and stuff. And yeah, so I think let me just ask if I know that this is yours, Claire, but let me ask if Hania is here, just because I didn't see anything, because since she's in the UK, I just want to make sure if she's here so we can touch
Don't
base.
see her, friend. And
Okay.
let me just make sure she hasn't sent me something. Sometimes she sends an
Okay.
email. Oh, she did. She
Okay.
did send me something, but
Oh,
I don't believe she's present.
okay.
Yeah, she's not on here, so
Okay.
I'll post it, but we can skip her.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I think that would be a good idea. So actually, oopsie, did I do anything? No. Claire, I'm just gonna, since I have the photo right here, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna go ahead and just start with yours, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Although I think Deanne was before me, but whatever.
Oh, okay. Let me just start with yours, and then I'll just backtrack.
Okay.
But great choice.
Go ahead.
No. It's a great choice. Sorry, of image. I love the reflection. I like the monochromatic aspect. That's a great looking toaster, Claire.
Yeah, Amazon. It was the only one that was mostly white and looks kind of retro. It works great. I love it.
It's beautiful. I haven't seen this one. I love the reflective area. It's so clean and flat.
I had toast in the original photo, but I had to eat it. And then I realized, well, it kind of looks better, more monochromatic without the toast.
It's a great choice. I hope you enjoy. Oh, this is beautiful. It's stunning, Claire. What size, if I may ask? Is it?
I'm working in 8x10 today.
8x10. I would say it's a perfect. It's a very good size for what we did. This looks stunning. Thanks for the compositional arrangement. It's marvelous. Did you put some thoughts into it?
I did. I originally had all the stuff that is normal. This is an old oven that has a shelf on top, and I originally had all this stuff that was there, my utensil thing and my olive oil dripper, and then at one point I narrowed it down to the egg timer and the salt shaker. And
So
then
the
I
photo
felt
needs
like
to
the
come.
salt shaker is more how I'm feeling, kind of isolated, looking in the mirror, here by myself. All my friends are gone. It felt like how I'm feeling. And also was, let's face it, easier to paint than all that others.
Excellent. It's a self-portrait as a salt shaker. How
Yes.
perfect. I love it. I think it's exquisite. Sorry.
The only paints I used were white, a little bit of Van Dyke
Okay.
Brown, and Payne's Gray.
I think this painting is done in that sense, because we could argue that there are certain things like the color, there's like some purple, there's some ecru and even pink. We could argue that we could just blush some elements, but I would not touch anything. I just think that it's so strong, very strong, the way it's painted. Okay, so let me just go to perhaps a few adjustments.
Sure.
Maybe on the knob. So on this knob, there's something so clean about the fact that it's straight. The edges, it looks like a little disc. It's very cylindric, almost like like a can. And I feel like on the painting, uh, there's a sense of being like rounder. And I know that you try to bring the darker areas on top and the bottom. But what I would do is try to sharpen a little bit the top and the bottom of that cylinder so it feels really cylindric.
Okay.
Quick, I mean, that's like a quick adjustment. And that would be it. I think that would be it.
Since this photo, I did add a few teeny tiny highlights on that knob and the top knob and at the very top of the
Okay. I wouldn't, yeah, but that's a minimal, it's a really strong painting. It's excellent. I love the palette. I think it's really cool. And you were able to bring in a little bit of surrealism in it without being too intentional. So it's just the perfect amount of narrative, but still preserving the form of a still life. I think the balance is really great because you can see how beautifully painted it is, and at the same time, it's evocative of a state of mind and emotion, and so it's a good balance. Excellent, great job.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was really a ton of fun, actually. I was really looking forward to it. I think it's a subject I could do over and over again. Everything ends up being a self-portrait, even if it's a pomegranate or a salt shaker or whatever. So thank you.
Yeah. If you can do the adjustments and then send me another picture, because I'd like to share it.
So do you think any adjustments need to be made in the reflection on the toaster, or is that done?
No, I just think it's if you no, I think it's done. I mean, if we sort of like if we are very specific, I would possibly very lightly smudge or make the edges a little bit fuzzier on the reflection.
Got it.
A
Yeah.
tad, but you have to be very careful because if it's too much, it's just going to lose the idea of reflection, because right now it's fully reflective and it has the same definition of edges on both sides. It wouldn't be a bad idea to blur a tiny bit of the edges on the reflection. It's just going to give you even much more elevation and a sense of like surface interest. Yeah. So that would be an observation. Yeah, I'm glad you asked because it could elevate the painting even more.
Yeah, when I look at the photo, it has a certain amount of pinkish brown in it, and I don't know if I want to add that or not.
That I wouldn't. If anything, I would just work on the quality of the edges because you have some color already and it feels like really interesting.
Okay.
It may distract too much if you add a tiny bit, but experiment and see.
I think it would be going down a bit of a rabbit hole. It might be better to just start a new painting if I want to try a different color palette.
100% agree.
Yeah, you heard it here last week and you're hearing it now. I'm going for monochromatic just to get better at painting because I tend to rely on color a lot. So that's my goal. We'll see how I do.
You're doing great, and look at the results. I commend you for exploring it because it's only going to strengthen your practice. Look how beautifully you render the values on this painting. It looks much stronger than if you were all painted in color. So, and not that you should stick with it like forever, but it's a good discipline in order to push you forward. So good idea.
Yeah, it's just for now.
Yeah, good idea.
Thank you, Julio. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, Denise, oh, let me see. Yeah, Denise, thank you so much. And I have a pending response to your email, and I'm still researching, but I will give you a reply, a proper reply. So sorry for not replying back. And I, please just find a museum. This is exquisite. It reminds me of the Russian Impressionists. It's so beautiful. But can you tell me a little bit? I know that you added other images as well. I want to find out if you wanted to tell us something, because there was a Matisse that you uploaded, and also this, which I love, this Matisse.
Yeah, that's the Matisse. There's a picture of like sunlight coming through a window too. That
Yes.
It's kind of up higher. I know. When I uploaded them, they went all over the place.
I know. Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
So Julie's great grandfather.
Oops, sorry. Let me just group them all together.
So I have a poster of a Bonnard at home, which is it's like a scene of a breakfast table.
Okay.
And so I you know, the Mexican artist's photograph that you showed, I was kind of thinking about that one too, and I wanted to do something sort of a modern version of this Matisse, you know, in sort of a modern impressionist sort of painting. So I got these all these pictures together, and I'm trying to sort of bring them all together. I've got a picture of a fiddly fig and all the newspaper and all sorts of things. So I was trying to think of, you know, a brand new day, a brand new year, a brand new, you know, hope. So, yeah, so I didn't get much past the sketch and the initial wash. I'm kind of trying to figure out what colors I want to use really on all the different elements. And
I so appreciate. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm just going to say the tablecloth, I brought some yellow and red in, and that's what I'm sort of questioning now, if that was not, if that's going to work.
Okay. Jen, I'm gonna put you in charge of finding a painting by a Russian impressionist of a girl eating an orange, and it's a famous painting, and it's in a breakfast table. But in the meantime, I will say this, Denise, thanks for just not only uploading your process, but I so appreciate that you brought in other images and that you showed us your train of thought and what you're trying to achieve. Because I feel like this, to me at least, it's as inspiring as just seeing your work. The fact that you pulled images and you wanted something of this image and something of that image. Excellent. Thanks for inspiring us. So I love the idea of the space, of the breakfast table, because for starters, there's something about having the actual subject that we're referring to very small and within a context. So I love that aspect, and I just think that the table looks great. I think the color of the table looks great. I don't think you should change anything. On this stage, for example, like visually, this works really great. But if we had to analyze further, I would say that the bottom of the table on this side it still needs to be resolved. And this could be an area where I would continue working on it, just because there's not a clear, there's not a clear fold of the tablecloth and cascading on the edge of the table. So
Right.
I would also consider the light as well, because if you had this idea of like bringing, this is amazing, but if you had the idea of bringing the light inside, so perhaps also picking up some of the colors that you have on the tablecloth, and also taking them outside in a way, perhaps in this could be a way of connecting the outside to the inside. The painting doesn't need it, but I'm just talking in the sense that you brought the photograph, and I love the premise of you know, brand new day and sunlight going through the window. So potentially, I just think that those colors are so beautiful that they could be also picked up from the outside. If anything, I feel like the ceiling is very dark in that sense. And although I like it because it kind of like bookends the painting from the top, it's a nice way to bring the idea of a corner, but it brings a lot of attention to that area, and it almost makes it feel like it's pushing whatever happens on the painting, pushing it down almost. There's a lot of pressure from the darkness of the top. So, I mean, I'm just trying to sort of like give you different things to think about, because the important part of the top of the painting is the fact that the wall breaks into the ceiling. So that line, the corner, is important. The valley on the ceiling could be considered in the sense of giving more space, especially because the plant ends right below the edge, and that contributes to the fact that the top may feel like it's a lid. It's capping the painting almost like too much, and it's pushing everything down.
Yeah, I want to lighten that way up. Also, the window, I want that to really be white. And I'm getting a little muddy with charcoal, it seems like.
I'm guessing that that's the case, because I don't think, I think if you want to continue with the painting, I think I see that that's the charcoal that's doing all that. So,
yeah, do you think Matisse, you know, this painting of Matisse that Matisse did, do you think he used charcoal on it? It seems like it's so luminous. It seems like there's not...
probably. I don't know his process. Probably not. Those guys sketched directly with a small brush. They certainly sketched, but I don't think they used charcoal. They were like pretty fast, and they did what we do with charcoal. They did it with paint. My guess is that he sketched with a single color, with a neutral color, and then he proceeded to kind of like bring the color over it. And but it would be interesting to find out. But I think from what I've seen, you know, most of those impressionists and post-impressionists, they use the brush, a small brush, directly with a neutral tone, and they sketch everything.
Okay. Yeah. I want to. I think when it dries out, it dries a little bit, then I'll be able to get, you know, lighten it up a lot and get rid of a lot of that sort of.
Yeah, if you want to bring and some of the elements, for example, of this painting, which is amazing, look at the variation of bigger leaves. So there are different kinds, and one is cropped. So there's a sense on here of the leaves being contained too much in one space. So perhaps if you paint it further, make sure that some of the leaves are cropped outside, because that's going to enlarge that area of the painting, and it's not going to compress it too much. So that's something that here stands out. And also, I love the fact that he brings different botanical elements from the corners in a very specific way. So it's almost graphic in a way. So if you want on the painting, be also very specific in regards of the quality of the leaves here, because
Yeah, that was my plan to do that sort of geranium type thing at the bottom corner like he did. And then this at the top was like fiddle leaf fig, you know,
yeah.
which is trendy now. I think it kind of like it says 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love the different sizes. I like that they're aligned on a diagonal, because
Mm.
everything has a lot of verticals, the window, the edges of the painting, and this corner right here. But then you have the botanical elements that are breaking up the verticals. I think that's good. There are a lot of botanical elements, so
Yeah.
consider that as well. And I mean, I love the fact that he also has a lot of botanical elements.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the garden, that picture. So that's what I was thinking. Lots of
Right, right. Look at the use of black, for example, if you want to bring that, because that it's a different way of making things pop color-wise. And if you want to bring it to the painting, that could be something that could be brought up in certain elements. It's really dramatic. This is really dramatic. It's really
Yeah.
bold.
Mhm.
So compositionally, it kind of like frames the subject. So I think it's really very cleverly placed.
Mhm.
Being so dramatic, it just fits. So
Mhm.
I don't know how I would place it, but if you want to bring that idea, perhaps it's not a bad idea to bring that on this side the way you did it, or maybe on this side, although here it feels very squeezed on this area.
Mhm.
I don't know. Be careful here because you have the trunk of the plant, and then it just aligns with the back seat and the seat of the chair. So
Mhm.
maybe something breaking it up here, or playing a different diagonal on the floor, distinction on the floor and the wall. But you have here a very strong alignment. So yeah, push the leaves out so they get cropped. So you
Mhm.
break that strong alignment, and perhaps just bring the trunk, bring it behind, so it's clearly behind the seat, or even
Yeah.
drifting off the page, so it doesn't coincide.
Yeah. Maybe the chair should be a little bigger, a little wider.
The chair.
The chair, yeah. Maybe the
Yeah,
chair should
I
get
mean, yeah.
closer. No? You like it like or do you like it like that more?
I love the chairs painted, the way the chair is painted. I think it's really
Okay.
beautiful.
All right. I'll
Yeah,
work on it.
even, I mean, that's probably the strongest part of the painting, because you have like a few dashes of this light blue that are so aesthetically pleasing. The painting visually, it's very pleasing. It has a lot of dynamic force and energy, and
Mhm.
you got a lot going on, so it's really exquisite.
Yeah.
And so just like a few elements, I would say. And in regards of bringing this, I love the visual plane, or the depth of field, and the fact that some elements are blurrier.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
the room feels really compressed. So if
mhm.
you want, you could just bring like attention to one object, and some other objects could be a little bit less defined. Because if you define everything, it's just gonna create tension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I tried to get the distortion like Matisse has, but the architect in me took over and I had to make it in perspective. A correct perspective. I just couldn't.
Oh, no, I think it's good. I mean, you have this that it's almost like falling off the painting, which creates an interesting dynamic effect. So there's a distortion here that it feels very Matissean.
Yeah.
So I like that. And yeah, no, it just has a nice balance. I mean, you could bring some darkness behind the table, because the table feels really pushed against the wall. Not that um, that is visually noisy, but you could just bring some darker values here to push the table away,
Yeah.
perhaps, and separate the chair from the background, because right now the back seat feels really attached to the background.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, you're safe. We're just like really picking. We're really picking too much, but you're in an excellent path. This painting
No,
already
no,
looks fantastic.
I like all your suggestions. So,
Cool.
great. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
Always encourage me well. Thanks,
I can't wait. So yeah,
Celia.
Thanks so much. And I'll reply back to you and I'll find out. I'll find that out. And Jackie, my gosh, this is so good. I love this so much for so many reasons. Thanks for taking care of the composition. This is a good example of when you compose elements in the format that you're using in a very considerate way. You already advance your job so much. You have to do less. This is you give nice room. It's just beautiful. It's playful. I love the fact that you have more definition on the knobs and less definition on the background. And I think that's very clever because if I may say something, sometimes when I see you working, you're so good and you work in such a confident way that there may be a tendency of applying the same amount of detail to every single visual plane of your painting. And I feel like you are growing in that sense, because this is a good example that there is sharpness and contrast, but then you give a sense of space and room that pushes the back wall further back than if it were all super detailed. So I'm really happy about those two things, the composition and the different treatment of the visual planes. And also, this is so good because you have been so ambitious with your landscapes in the sense that they're such in dense images full of detail that once in a while it's nice just to kind of like do a simple still life in which you have just a few elements, the object, the surface, and the background. And please do more if you can, because it's nice to break up from landscapes to a different subject so you can explore and also add detail to other elements. So I couldn't be happier. So, and this is the photo
I think it was up higher.
of the actual toaster. Oh yeah, so good, so good. Is that oops, sorry. Is that a photo or you actually have it?
That's my mom's toaster.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I'm so happy. Yeah, this for many reasons. I mean, I try to focus on the painterly aspects. This is really good in that sense. If I go back and forth, I mean, we can just argue that we could kind of like tweak certain elements of, like, for example, I love almost the saffron orange or the saffron yellow. And I know that this is with oil, it may just take another pass or, but there's something really nice about the warmth of the color. And I think that would possibly, you can amp it up if you wanted to. I mean,
yeah, I think because it just kept on picking up the cold charcoal. So once that dries, I think I can do that.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Even on the table is fine. I think that's good. So perhaps also on the reflection, because I feel like it reads a little bit more like part of the toaster, and maybe just making it a little bit fuzzier or diffused could make it read more like a reflection. Because right now it just picks up. It looks like it's part of the actual toaster.
Right.
So yeah, maybe it's also because of the charcoal, because there's a lot of like darker elements, and I would just diffuse it or make it blurrier and perhaps lighter. So there's a distinction, because what happens is that here the highlights are interrupted by the actual shell of the toaster, but at the bottom there's no interruption. The highlight kind of like extends. So perhaps even making that edge even more so defined, if you wanted to add, because I feel like it's really horizontal, very, very straight. And there's a sense almost of like being or having a little bit of a belly. So if you wanted to kind of like lower this so it actually interrupts the highlight, and then pinch the highlight on the table to extend it, I think that's going to create more distinction between the feet and the reflection.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I think this is just wonderful. It's just beautiful. I love the knobs. I like the playfulness of the knobs being a face, you know.
Mhm.
There's something really nice and a good balance between nicely painted and also unapologetic in its happiness. So it doesn't feel like an illustration and it doesn't feel like something super serious, but it feels very painterly. So
Thanks.
fantastic. Thank you for painting it. This makes, when I saw it, it just made me so happy. It's just so good. Oh, Jen, yeah, you brought some really amazing stuff here. Okay, yes. So let me just go, Lois, if you're here, let us know. And oh, Sarah Jennings, 1 second. This is so fun. Yes.
I'm here too. Whoever wants to go.
Hey. Okay,
Hiya.
so thanks, Lois. This it's so good. It's so let me just.
Well, the highlight is my husband's sourdough bread, which is, he figured out how to make it. So that's been saving us for COVID, this 9 months. So I might start a whole toast series. I couldn't do it without the highlight was the toast for sure.
I think this is the perfect marriage of both of you.
Yeah, I like the cool of the toaster and then the warmth of the bread.
Right.
So I just want to let it dry and then really add the crumbs and get that bread really looking crusty and delicious.
Okay. I would say that similarly to what I told Claire, this is pretty strong already. So it has a really solid base, and I wouldn't fuss with it too much. I love the composition. I like how it crowds the format. It's a very interesting point of view. But yeah, I agree. There's this wonderful contrast in the irregularity of the bread, something that it's kind of like messy and organic and natural, and the machine-like effect of the toaster. So I agree. I would just kind of like work on the edges because there's a strong regularity on the edges of the toaster. So there's this verticality. There's something that feels like almost very straight and continuous. So I love the almost the sinuous serpentine effect of the cut, and the fact that it's kind of like twisted here. So yeah, potentially you could do a lot with that contrast in machine versus human made.
Yeah.
But the rest is amazing. The knobs, the buttons. I wouldn't fuss with it too much. If you wanted to bring, if you wanted to blend a little bit more the highlights, so it feels like more integrated, because if you notice here that it's a little bit more blended without being excessively blended, you have a great integration of the surface with the buttons and the edges. So perhaps,
yeah, that was good notes today about not over blending. I think I was blending. I was like, stopped as soon as you said that. That's good.
Excellent painting. It's just really fresh.
I just want you guys to take note of the toaster's buttons. They're kind of funny. Look at the photo.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
No, on the photo.
On the photo.
On the
Okay.
photo.
Sorry. Let me just go back.
It just feels very 2020.
Oh.
It says toast, cancel, a bit more, bagel, frozen. I don't know. It just seems kind of good.
Seriously, you can write a haiku with this word.
Awesome, guys. Okay, well, good luck. This was nice to get off Twitter for
right.
2
Yeah,
hours.
thank you so much. I felt the same way.
Hey, Lois, this is Claire. Can I trade you some pastels for sourdough bread?
Absolutely. That's a good trade. That's a good trade.
I need your email address and phone number. We'll do an awesome quarantine trade, social distance.
Oh,
I love it. I love it for sure.
Thanks. Awesome.
I'll come take a drive. I've been in my house forever.
Oh,
it was so great. I took a drive to Charlotte's.
Oh, fun.
Good. Well, thanks, Lois. Yeah, and then
okay, guys.
Thank you so much. And I'm gonna bring Sarah Jennings, and I love Sarah. I love that you chose this one. This is so cool, and I like the fact that yeah, I think that's pretty rebellious in that sense. I love it. I think this is really interesting, and it's not a typical view. And this was taken by somebody. I think it was on Craigslist, and I think it was like $4 or something. So, and I love that it's amazing. It's beautiful, and then you nailed it. I was gonna put you to the test because you missed the first part of the session, and I almost like teased you, but you passed, if there's such a thing, with flying colors. Great composition. Thank you, Sarah Jennings. It just looks great. Enough space to let the object breathe and have a visual path, so we can just go around it, and also bring the sense of isolation by padding the object with so much empty space between the object and the edges. I think it's an excellent idea. I love the color that happened here, because this is like a fuchsia that's so bright, but I kind of like better what you did here. I mean, this salmon, light salmon, it's really interesting because it's such a not predictable color. I love the idea of the metallic being also cold and machine made with this almost like skin tone, or one skin tone, but or flesh. I don't know. There's something really interesting about that contraposition that it works for me. And good challenge as well in regards of painting something that doesn't have the perspective that you would expect, because you chose something that from the point of view of from above, and you have something hollow, and you don't have a corner that would allow you to do almost like a 2-point perspective that would give you some play. So I also congratulate you for taking on the challenge to do something so foreshortened. You only have the side of the toaster that it's showing, and you did a good job. I think that looks, yeah, I think that looks really good. Perhaps if you wanted to even increase a little bit more the diagonal on the bottom side, so it's even more accentuated. I mean, I'm being totally annoying right now, but I would also, this is so hard because this photo is like nuts, but I kind of like the fact that there is a shadow of the wire. I think you got it here, perhaps. Is that the shadow as well?
Yes, I tried to bring it in without being too obvious.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason that I chose this, it was really challenging for me for all the reasons that you mentioned. And I thought for the new year, I want to take on things that I normally would not be drawn to. I wanted to make sure that I did it so that people would recognize what the item was, because when you first look at this picture, it almost looks like, from afar, it almost looks like a lantern because of the way that it's positioned and with the bright fuchsia. I intentionally chose a toned down background color that was pinkish, but not that bold. And the other thing is, I've been noticing a lot in a lot of the TV series that I've been watching from different countries as well as ours, that they use aerial views a lot. And I'd like to focus this year on integrating aerial views, because I'm feeling like we, not only as a nation, but because of COVID, it's from afar looking down on us. There's a certain kind of judgment from above that's happening that's very interesting to me. And I think artistically, I'd like to explore that more.
I think that's brilliant. I love what you said. I think that's very interesting, and I get it. I think this idea of almost being under a microscope, that's how I read it, so being looked from above, and then satellite image almost, that everything's on plain view.
This was also a very uncomfortable image of a very comfortable item. And that's what I went for, because our domestic bliss has been so interrupted and so fragmented, and a little bit too much familiarity with with the family, the pets, the house. I wanted to go for that that aspect that's a little bit more difficult.
I think it's amazing, and I think it's just going to it's going to elevate your painting, because sometimes practice is one thing, but then adding these complex layers, it's important. And I think, yeah, I'm very happy. I think that that's working, and I think that's great. And the proof of that, the proof for me that this will work is if someone says, "What is this?" If someone asks that question, it means like you were successful.
Mhm.
Because I think that's what that painting of that toaster, that I don't know exactly where the toaster is, inspired me to do. Kind of like, not everything needs to be so clear and recognizable. Let's just kind of like challenge ourselves to put something that it's not recognizable at first sight, and that causes or arises doubts and questions about what exactly is. And it kind of, it could be a good predicament or a good reflection of what's happening around us. What is real? What is actually what's happening? Because from what we see, I mean, I'm not trying to say that what happened wasn't real, but it's a good way of saying that sometimes when we look at things, they may not be what they actually look like. So
Well, thank you for your input on this. And I just have to say, for our group, I love the comments and the images chosen in the paintings. This is a very special session and group. And I think I learned so much from what everybody else is doing and your comments on their work, that that's helping us to elevate individually and as a group artistically.
thanks, Sarah. I feel the same way, and you can only see all the paintings. I'm ready for freaking like 2021 filled with awesomeness like this. I don't think we started like 2020 with this much sophistication and complexity. So I just cannot even imagine how the year is going to end in regards of like painting, because these are spectacular, you guys. These are not just we're not at the same level as January 2020. I can tell you right now. This is really strong. So so yes, I share that feeling. So oh, Darlene, you're joking. This is so amazing. Oh my gosh.
Oh, really? I thought it's just like first notes.
Oh, whoa. No, it's just I am really impressed. Honestly, I'm really impressed, because when I see the beginning stages of your work, Darlene, it's usually I see a lot of like dry areas. I see still a lot of charcoal. And but this feels really fully formed. There's something really strong about this. Good job. Really amazing. I just it stands out. I think it's more advanced, perhaps because it's only a single object. Let me bring the image from that you're using as a reference, but it's pretty strong. And let me yeah, I love the image, by the way. So I think this is really good. Let me see if I can just bring it closer. And then we can not compare, I should use a different word, but sort of like find things that we could incorporate. Love the perspective, like the fact that it's facing forward, but then you can see the top also. Value-wise, you did an excellent job. I like the background as well, and the cast shadow. I think it's excellent, Arlene.
Oh, okay. Because I got tired and stopped at 12:30.
No, I think it's excellent. I think it's really good. So, all right. So a couple of notes, if I kind of like dive in and then mention a couple of things. I don't know how much I would tweak, but compositionally, I feel like it's expanding a lot. I don't know if the photo has more on the edges, but it's actually expanding a lot. So what I would do is on the left side, I would rein it in a little bit, because it almost feels like it's bowing. I think that's the word. A little bit, that line, because it's so close to the edge of the painting, you can compare the straightness of the edge and then the edge of the toaster. So I would perhaps a little bit push it in and also make it straight, but really tiny bit, because you don't want to change the shape too much. So there is something also interesting, even though you have a really nice cast shadow, there's something very interesting about the slight darkness of value on the left, because it creates a separation between the edge and the toaster. It creates a distinction between the material of the toaster and the granite on the table. So I feel like the high contrast here, it works to create perspective. So I feel like here I would bring a tad darker, not too much, but a tad darker, even if it's the darker on the upper left corner. So it just separates the material from the countertop. On the right side, on the right side, I think that's good. Yeah, I know that you went for the edge of the, yeah, I think that's good. So if you wanted to tweak with it, I love the fact that on the right side, it shows the straightness on both sides. So the cast shadow actually is straight first, and then it goes round, and then it goes straight. So I would shave this a little bit because there's a lot of regularity on the cast shadow. This almost feels like a vertical arch. So I would possibly shave this a tad and shave the top a tad. So it kind of like aligns with the edges of the toaster. It's not perceivable or visible, and just dissecting this possibly too much, but yeah. The upper part, the metallic part, I think it's excellent. Maybe if you want to darken this a tad more between the openings, so it looks a little bit more dramatic and more hollow. So same thing that you did, but slightly darker, not too much, because it's clearly readable. And yeah, the rest is fine. I think that's great. If you wanted to bring a cast shadow of the knob on the right side, that would kind of like help correlate the cast shadow outside with the light direction. And so yeah, I would just bring a little bit of the cast shadow on the knob.
And I wasn't even going to attempt writing things in, or
yeah, no, I don't think you need it. It's already very well organized, and it has a lot of details and buttons and things to push. I think that's it's pretty solid. I mean, if you wanted to do a little bit of a smudge, even with charcoal or just with a brush with a little bit of gray, kind of like do one mark, that should be enough. But don't even try to scribble anything, just a little smudge, horizontal smudge.
What's really helped me is thinking about what kind of clicked with me is when you say to like draw from the outside in.
Okay. Yeah.
That's,
yeah, shaving it, yeah, from the outside.
From the outside in, and
yeah.
Instead of trying to do
define
the
it.
object exact, that's really finally went boom.
Oh. Oh my. No, it's just beautiful. It's just such a fun, fresh, modern painting, Darlene. And it's so also strange. And I say this as a compliment, because I was trying to find paintings of toasters by anybody, not just by famous people. And I just couldn't find many. I couldn't find any, I should say. So I'm so happy that we are producing paintings with the subject being a toaster, because there are none. So I'm yeah, very excited, and this is very strong.
Okay, great. I'll work on this.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Darlene.
Thank you.
And yeah, so I'm just gonna, and Denise, really quickly, and everybody, these are paintings. Thank you, Jen. Oh,
Isn't that beautiful? So that's Swedish, but it was too beautiful not to post.
right.
Everyone else is French.
Yeah, it's just like so beautiful. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, very good. And I love the arrangement on the table as well, and a good way not to follow the typical perspective. So thanks for uploading this. Excellent, beautiful. Bonnard, yeah. I don't know if Denise, if that was one of the paintings that you mentioned, Bonnard painting, but thanks, Jen, for finding this. This is also, I love his work. I hope he didn't do anything bad in his life, because it would be really sad not to like his work. I don't think he did anything bad, but his work is just so amazing. Yeah, so amazing. Thanks for bringing this up. It's just, look at this amazing composition. You know, he literally cuts out a quarter of the painting, almost like in half and in the middle. It's so fun. And then this figure right here, it's not even part of the narrative. The chair is cropped. She is hunched and just pulling her legs, and then she is not interested on the table, and she's looking the other way. It just knocks my socks off in regards of the composition, and then the way it's painted, it's so gorgeous. These vibrant colors, and also so not trying too hard. Such a good painting, and he's such a great artist. I don't care what people say. I love his work. What is this, Jen? Bonnard again. Oh, stop.
Yeah, the last two are his as well. Yeah.
Come on. It's just incredible.
And then the next one in the garden is the
Ah,
one I'm most familiar
please.
with. Yeah. It's the National Gallery in
Really?
DC.
Come on.
Mhm.
Look at
I
that.
think we used to have the print of it in our house.
Seriously, this color palette. Just, it's just beyond. The pinks and the salmons and the purples and the lavenders and the periwinkles and the greens and the viridians. And look at also, I know that Sarah Brochure is not here, but the trunk of the tree is green, not brown. And it just works really well. And the orange on the table, it's, the color wise, and the rusty red on the chair, it's just so spectacular. I mean, it's just so complex, and it just works so well, and it's so simple. It's just like a table. It's not even, it's like one take, I guess. I don't know how long he took to do this, and it's so odd, this point of view. It's not standard, and it's if he painted this from life and he put the easel, that's the strange. I would never pick this position to paint this. I would possibly just put the table on the side. I mean, I'm sorry. I would put the chair off, so I would just paint the chair. I would cover the things underneath the tablecloth, for example. It's kind of like, it looks too ugly to have this part bare. I would not choose this point of view, but precisely because he's choosing this odd point of view, it's so mind-blowing. It's so interesting. Sorry, I just got a little bit carried away, but thank you. And oh my gosh, is this a Matisse? No way.
Yeah, so it's one of his first paintings. And it's just amazing how much his style changed and grew and became the Matisse that we all know. And
this is not very Fauvist, or it's really, I love it. I think it's amazing. Okay, Denise, you have plenty of work to do. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. I just found the picture that I have. I'll upload it.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I just found the Bonnard picture that I have. I'll upload it.
Okay. Let me just do it really quick, because sorry. Dina, I'm gonna go next to you, and let me just refresh, and then.
And while we're in between, Julio, so Kathy is not currently on, but she still wants you to do the critique for her to hear.
Okay.
But she won't be having a conversation with you.
Okay. I said, did I miss it? Denise?
Oh, I don't think that it's happened yet, babe. I don't think she's.
Oh, okay. All right, so let me know, Denise, when it's uploaded, and then I'm just gonna go to this gorgeous Dina. How are you? This is so precious.
Hi, I got the, I'm going to elongate it a little bit. I had turned it upside down to kind of see, but at first I thought, your eyes fool you. I thought that's what I saw. But then when I turned it around and upside down, then I could tell I need to elongate it. So I made some, already sketched out where I need to make some improvements, and
Okay.
its angles are a little bit off, but it's getting there.
Okay. Well, you know what, the stage that you uploaded, I'm gonna talk about compositionally. It's fantastic. I also love the choice of the toaster because you're going back in time much more. And I think there's something similar to what I mentioned to Sarah in the sense that she chose this point of view that it's not predictable. Choosing a toaster that doesn't look like a modern toaster, I think it's also very intentional and really, really bold. So I love the use of monochromatic elements. I like the fact that there's enough space around it. So yeah, whatever you need to do, but the way you have it, it's pretty strong. I like this 2-point perspective. And by the way, 2-point perspective, if I can explain it easily, it's when you have two diagonals, essentially. So 1-point perspective, imagine you're in the middle of a long road and you're looking at the end, at the horizon. And then from the horizon, you can draw 2 lines. That's 1-point perspective. 2-point perspective is when you can draw lines from 2 sides of an object. So this side of the object, you can kind of like extend the lines, and this other side of the object, you can extend it on a different way. So anyhow, just wanted to bring up that the fact that you chose this 2-point perspective also gives a strong sense of presence and upright position on a surface that feels very flat. So I can't wait for the rest, and please upload it and share it because this looks really good. And thank you, Dina.
Thank you.
And
Okay, so Julie had to leave, but she wants just written feedback. Hers is 20 by 16. Yeah, and then I think all we have left is just a verbal for Kathy, unless I've missed someone. Hanya's not here, so I think we can do a written for her as well.
okay, and Kathy's, is it this one?
No, that's Hanya's.
That's Hanya. Oh my God.
Kathy's is the one that has the Trump.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
All right, so I'm just gonna, I think this is amazing, and Kathy, I mean, it's so hilarious. Okay, so from the point of view of perspective, I think that looks good. I'm glad you chose like a vertical orientation that gives you space to put the sign upright. I think that's very good. And I would possibly work on highlights. So Kathy, if you can, this feels very similar in value. So I would work on highlights. There's also, if you want to consider, there's because of the reflective aspect of the toaster, you have this color that's reflecting the tiles, the countertop tiles. So I feel like the segregation of colors here, I would consider bringing some of this really delicious banana yellow onto the actual reflective area. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to change the color completely, but notice that this correlation of even the value is the same between the countertop and the top and the side of the toaster. I think that could just help you integrate the toaster. I love the cast shadow, perhaps a little bit darker, and I would use the same banana yellow, but a tad darker, maybe mixing it with either orange or the burnt sienna. But yeah, and perhaps also maybe even cropping it, this edge that feels almost too pushed and squeezed and try too hard to kind of like make sure that it fits in. And I'm not sure if I would just keep it or even extend it and exaggerate it. And in fact, just consider it because of that squeeze and because of this edge sort of like getting skewed towards the left, it almost feels like the edge is pushing the painting from the right towards the left. So consider either cropping this, and if you want it, also, I mean, I don't know if I would change that much, but there's something here that I would consider. Look at this angle on the left, and this, even though it's not vertical, it feels angled to the right. So there's something interesting and whimsical about that. So perhaps consider not changing it. And I love the fact that you put the sign inside. I think that's really funny and good. And I would say, so the paper has highs and lows. It has a darker on the corner, and then it's a little bit lighter. So I would break up the monotony of the blue. I think it's too solid. And so I would just bring some highs and lows of blue because it feels like it's crinkled a little bit. Yeah, that's what I would do possibly, and just maybe lightening it up a little bit. But anyhow, I just and also darken this hollow space in the toaster. I think it's brilliant and definitely a good way to mark a lot of things. So I thank you for being creative with the incorporation of the toaster and leaving absolutely no doubt. So this could be one of those paintings in your home that offers the guest test. Put it at the entrance of your house, and if someone comes in and protests, then revolving
Turn around. Exactly. That's awesome, Julio.
So good job. Okay, so anyhow, thanks. And then anyone else? Hania, I'm gonna do like written on Hania. That's an interesting.
Yeah, I think it's her grill. So maybe she doesn't have a
yeah.
toaster.
Right, it's the knobs of the oven, right?
Yeah.
Right here. Oh wow, talk about unpredictable and strange. I because the face of the oven picks up the darkness inside of the oven, so it looks like floating things. But yeah, I can see that. This looks beautiful. So Hania, yeah, I'll write it down. If you just continue working on it and uploading it, I can just do a written as well. And really briefly, also, Julie, I don't know if you're going to watch this, but this looks pretty amazing. So I don't know, you have nothing to worry about. I love the mannerism on the figure. It's just brilliant. It's close to being done. I think it's fantastic. So thank you so much, everyone. Do you guys have any questions? I just want to make sure before, because I feel like we talked a lot, but if you have any questions about the session, any things that felt confusing, let us know. Any suggestions, anything that wasn't clear enough? So yeah.
Can we see, you showed your painting, but I want to see do you have a photo of what you were painting from?
I don't, but I will take it and upload it.
Yeah, because, well, I love your painting, but when you were talking about the heart and the cord, I couldn't see what you were talking about because I didn't have your visual that you were working from.
Yeah, good idea.
I was curious.
Yeah, I'll take a photo from my point of view. It's a different light right now, but I'll take a photo and I'll put it up there so you can see it.
Thank you, Julio.
Thanks so much. And yeah, thanks, Jen, for your help, for the stories, for uploading these amazing pictures. I love everything you added. This was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have an amazing, wonderful, positive weekend. Take breaks, take care of yourselves. Try to plug in your brain waves to something that's intellectually enriching and that you feel it makes you smarter, or read something or watch
Hell
something.
no, I'm watching Bridgerton again.
Wait, Claire, did you watch it?
I did, and I'm waiting to watch it again. So hopefully I forget a few things and am surprised because it was so good. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I loved it. I think it was a lot of fun, and it was spicy, and I love the production of it, and I love the music, and I love the can we just say the casting? How do you feel about the
Brilliant.
casting?
I think it's the direction we need to be going in. I mean, ever since Hamilton, you know, it just was great. I also watched The Prom, and I was so mad that they didn't have, you know, I just was upset with some of the casting with that. That's all I'm going to say. They could have done some colorblind casting with that. And but Bridgerton, so beautifully done. You can tell that Shonda Rhimes spent 3 years developing it, and instead of just throwing it together. But yeah, now I want to go back and watch all the Pride and
Yeah.
Prejudice and just everything from that era. I thought it was really beautifully done, but so much fun.
I think so too. And it's just funny because in regard to the casting, I feel I mean it's 2021, you would think like this would happen earlier, but I just love the fact that there's so much diversity in the casting and a theme that we associate with non-diversity. And why not? I mean, some people say, no, there were no Black people at the time. Shut up, sit down. This is fun and beautiful. And that's not the point. Sometimes the point is not to be historical. It's just to be contemporary. So I thought they did something extraordinary that I hope other people copy. And it had to be someone like her to come up with this. And I'm just gonna get my $40 from the Bridgerton merchandise department for promoting it or whatever. But yeah, just watch it. It's beautiful, and it's gonna put you away from the ugliness of today's world. So thank you. Yeah, I'll just try to upload this as soon as possible. It takes some time, and yeah. So on Tuesday we'll do the colloquium. Wednesday studio time. Friday it's going to be the webinar, and we're going to try to incorporate an evening session next week. Let's have a chat jam later and see which day can work, because a lot of people want to do nights, so it would be really interesting to give it a try.
More weekends too.
Yeah. So Denise, since you're here, really briefly, the results of the survey were amazing. A lot of people responded, and it was so helpful because it made us realize the day that was the most voted, you guys, the day and time was Saturday morning time, or daytime. It was the one that received the most votes.
That
But
would be my favorite.
I think this time worked great.
yeah, and amazingly, a lot of people also replied on evening, especially early in the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. So there were a lot of answers on those 3 days. So let's discuss, and then let's see how many weekend sessions we can do, because I think weekends may work with some people as well. And we could do like a few a month, because I know weekends are tough, and it's when we have to coordinate with other things. But I would love to incorporate more, just so it makes the weekend more fun and interesting. And now we're gonna have a fabulous lunch, everyone. Don't go anywhere, but just cook something beautiful and take a picture and upload it of the setup. Why not?
Thanks, Surya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
so
Bye,
much,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.